Hey guys, it's Danny. Today we're gonna take a look at my Sedirea japonica orchid. I was mentioning in a previous video that this orchid produced so many kikis, it struggled a lot to maintain them alive until they produced roots. Sadly, things have taken a turn for the worst, and I suspect this orchid is really not doing well. And especially if we compare it to my other Sedirea, which is bouncing back nicely, it is producing roots, everything is okay. There is a big difference. So I want to see exactly what's going on with this orchid, and I want to remove those keikis from the mother orchid. We'll see what we can keep. One of the keikis is dying. I'll show you in a second why. I believe that if I let this orchid be like this, it's not gonna end well. So let's take a closer look and see what's going on. So as we can see, we're not really dealing with loss of roots. This orchid seems to have quite a lot of roots. Which ones come from the keikis and which ones from the mother plant? Pretty hard to tell. We need to unpot this one and see how the roots actually look inside. Also, this keiki is dying off. There's no chance I can save this one, and I'll show you why it's dying off. It is a sort of a mutated keiki. The crown is damaged somehow. The latest leaf grew really weird. Part of it is on the outside of the crown and half of it is coming from the crown. I didn't think this was possible, but there you go. And I think it's just gonna die off. It's a faulty keiki. The bad thing is, while it was alive, this orchid needed to feed it and support it. Not sure if it has any roots. I don't think so. So it was just a very expensive stress for the mother orchid. And I have a feeling that these keikis, even though they have roots, they're still depending on their mother orchid, and she still feeds them. It's a really peculiar case, and I just think I need to intervene. So the first thing we will do is unpot this orchid and see what we find inside. Okay, so I'm not entirely sure if this orchid it's not attached to anything. There we go. Alrighty, one of the roots actually died. Now these roots are coming from the keikis, as you can see, and the mother orchid doesn't really have any roots. All these roots are from the keikis as far as I can see. Oh, the mother orchid still has a root here. But yeah, it's time to detach these keikis, and this one has absolutely no roots whatsoever. So what I'm going to do first is remove this dying keiki. Now I'm going to be using a knife, a very sharp knife. Now an X-Acto knife would be a better option because it is thin, and I had one somewhere, but I don't know where I put it. So we're just going to have to do with this, and it's pretty hard to do this on camera, so I really hope I will be in frame. I'll try to separate it a little bit from the mother orchid just to see where I can safely cut. Okay, so as you can see, there is a little sort of a rhizome connecting it. So I'm actually going to use the pliers to cut this keiki out. Okay. Oh, I see something disturbing. Okay, so I'm not entirely sure that what I see here is a purple ring. This orchid was on its way out. It's dying. I am not sure this is Fusarium, but we'll see with the other keikis what's the case. If it is indeed Fusarium, well, you know, but let's hope it's not. So I'll go ahead and sterilize my pruners before I make any more cuts. Now, funny thing, this orchid actually came with 3 keikis when I purchased it, and 2 were created while I had it. But if I look on the orchid, I can only see another 2. There appears to have been more, but they kind of died off. Oh, there's another one here that is dying off. There you go. But one is missing. I suspect it died off at some point and I didn't notice it. So this one, again, I can remove it. It's flimsy. It's almost gone. So I'll just remove this one as well. Again, same procedure, cutting the rhizome. Let's see. And this again, I don't know. I cannot tell if I see any rings, so not conclusive just yet. Now I keep saying rhizome, but this is not a rhizome, it's a stem, it's the connection. So no, this is not a sympodial orchid. Sorry if that's what I made you believe. This is a monopodial orchid. It does not have a rhizome, it has a stem. Okay, so things are a little more decluttered. Now let's try to remove these keikis, which I actually want to save. It's gonna be trickier because they are very attached to the mother plant. So again, what I'm gonna do is try to pull them apart a little bit, and I already see where I need to cut. See that section there? That's where I need to cut, and I don't think I'm gonna need the knife. I think I can go ahead and use the pruners. Let's see. I'm gonna try not to cut the crown, and I think I did a good job. Okay, this keiki doesn't really appear to have any rings, so I don't think I'm dealing with Fusarium here, I think. Not entirely sure. There is some blackening, but it might very well be just the sheaths of the stem. Let's try to remove them a little bit. So yeah, this keiki looks okayish, has quite enough roots. Let's remove the other one as well. And this keiki, I think this is the biggest keiki on the orchid. This is very attached to the mother orchid. If I lose a keiki, I'm fine with that. I don't want to have any more keikis on this orchid. So let's see. Okay, this might go terribly wrong, and that is that. Okay, let's keep that in mind. I actually think I did a decent job. Not entirely sure with this one. I went very close, but stuff were very glued. So if this keiki doesn't make it, that's okay. I would suggest that if you have a healthy orchid and you have such a glued keiki to the stem, do not remove it. It's okay. Mine was simply not doing very well, and you can see the toll that the keikis took in comparison to the other one. And if you can believe it, this one looked better than the other one at some point, much better. And slowly, things went bad. So the other one is thriving now, and this one is not. Gonna clean up the root system a little bit, and things are looking much better now. So I have an option. I did separate the keikis, but there is no problem if these orchids all sit in the same pot, and I think that's what I'm gonna do. My main concern was to cut the connection between the mother plant and the keikis. But if they live together and everybody just relies on their root system, everything is fine by me. So what I'm gonna do is make a sort of a community pot. It's the same orchid, so I will not transfer disease from one part of the plant to another because it was already connected. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pot everything back in this pot and in this medium, and I'll come back when I'm done. So what I did was place them in a sort of a balance here. This is how I would like them to sit. And now I'm just gonna put back the medium. I'm observing I'm using small ceramis here. Probably this was the time where I didn't have the chunky ceramis. I would use the chunky ceramis, to be honest. And this is an 11 centimeter pot, so it's one of the tricky ones. Yeah, I would definitely not use again the ceramis, but it's okay, I'm going to reuse it now. I am not entirely sure if this orchid is diseased or what's happening to it, so I'm keeping in mind this orchid might just not make it. And I do have another Sedirea which is healthy, so that is that. And this is the finished result. I used some big ceramis as well, and you might notice that my orchids are potted quite high. Now, I talked about this in my video in which I show you how I repotted Sedirea. This type of orchid has a pretty sensitive axis or stem, especially at the base. If it stays very moist, it tends to lose leaves, it tends to darken up. So I would prefer to keep them higher on the pot, have a little bit of that root system on top of the pot. So I prefer to actually pot them raised rather than buried. There's no problem if those roots are somewhat aerial. This orchid really likes ventilation. And this is how I potted my other one, this one. Everything is doing okay. As you can see, there's no more blackening, but I did have blackening in the past before I actually knew I had to pot it further up. So with Sederias, I do suggest that you pot them quite high in the pot. Leave a little bit of those roots on top of the medium. It's not gonna mind it, it's gonna be beneficial, and overall, you're gonna have a prettier and much healthier stem. And as we know, stem rot is not a joke. So this is why I potted these orchids higher up. Now, I don't know what's wrong with this orchid. I always assumed it was the keiki stressing out the plant, but I'm not entirely sure. Maybe this is a weak individual, maybe it has a disease that I don't see. I have no idea. As you can see, it's not bouncing back from orchid fleck virus quite well, and the virus might actually have something to say in its evolution. So I have doubts about the evolution of this orchid. We'll see what's gonna happen, but I expect it to die as well. I've come to terms with that, but I think removing the keikis will overall be okay for the orchid, and maybe for the keikis as well. I'll keep you up to date, but yeah, this is the first case that I've had where an orchid is simply overwhelmed by the keikis. Well, except the Stardust Dendrobium, but everybody has issues with that one. So we'll see how this one will do in the future. I'll keep you up to date. Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. Subscribe to my channel for daily orchid and plants videos and updates, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye! Now things are very sunny and bright, but temperatures are pretty low, and I'm a little bit scared about this brassivola. Funny thing though, this little stars always blooms for me in winter. They're supposed to bloom in summer, but for whatever reason this blooms in winter time or the end of autumn for me. And yes, she started to open her flowers just like usual. I'm curious when she will bloom next year, when theoretically she will be more adjusted to this environment.